Welcome to Travel Devil. I'm your host Clara Francken, and in a world full of mass tourism, we're here to talk about unconventional travel. Let's get into it. Gunnar Fehlau, welcome to Travel Devil. Thank you for making time for us today. Last year, Gunnar decided to leave his office and make it mobile. He started working from his e-cargobike, as he calls it, workpacking. Gunnar, I'm very happy to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I love the name of the podcast.
Thank you so much. All right, let's jump right into the topic. Could you start by explaining a little bit more about, just the word work packing?
Yeah, actually, it's just a combination of work and travel and bike packing. In the English and American language area, bike packing basically means all kind of cycling touring. So it's just like backpacking with the bike. So they call it bike packing. But in Germany or in Central Europe, we've got this more traditional way of do cycle touring. So you got these large bags on the rear and the front lowrider bags and a handlebar pack and another roll on the rack on the rear. So what I call six-pack touring, because you always got these six large packages. And because they are so heavy and your legs are so limited power-wise, you tend to follow the rivers and stay in the valleys. So it gets slower and slower and more traditional. And in Central Europe, the bikepacking idea is more about going with less luggage in harder terrain and on a more sporty, on a more adventurous way. So in the German language area, the bikepacking idea is more sportive, and I just mixed up the idea of going on work and travel and going on a bikepacking trip, and cut all cut off all the unnecessary letters, and it ended up to be workpacking.
Yeah, I really love that term. That's really nice that you came up with that. And um, if we go back to the beginning, as you were mentioning, just bikepacking in general, is that something that you previously did, bikepacking? And when we're going way back to the beginning, like, were you always a person who loved cycling? How was that for you growing up? Maybe like let's start there.
Okay, so we're going far away. I'm getting old. Anyway, I learned cycling pretty late, so with 4 or 5, and I'm still working on that. um, and I did a lot of cycle touring, and I'm into cycling like yeah since I'm 5, and always dived a little bit deeper than other people. So I built my own frame when I was 17, and I did some cycle touring and did long endurance racing stuff in the early 90s. Worked in a bicycle shop when I was like 15, did my first article for the school newspaper, Schülerzeitung in Germany, and did my first paid articles for magazines when I was 17. So things started early, and used to be in the Boy Scouts before, like in the 80s. And suddenly in 2007, I wrote a short, like a five line news in the bike magazine in Germany. Like, our mechanic will do a weird race in the US. It's called the Great Divide Race, and it's following the Continental Divide from Canada to Mexico. And it will be like 4,700 kilometers, and you have to take your own camping gear because there is nothing to stay. And I said, that's a great idea. And on the other side is like, I couldn't make it to Canada at that time because my kids had been like 3 and 5. So I don't want to leave home for like 5 weeks to get that race done. So I did the opposite way. Okay, if I won't make it to the race needs to come over to me. And that was the birth of the Grenzstein Trophy, a bikepacking challenge trophy following the former German border, just next to the tank plates next to the Iron Curtain. Back to the question, I started bikepacking like with the Boy Scouts. Basically, we did some kind of bikepacking, and in these normal, newer German interpretation of less luggage and harder terrain, sportive way, I started bikepacking like 2008.
Okay. So it started with the Boy Scouts, and when you were explaining you in a plural form to go along the the previous Iron Curtain, that was it with a group of your Boy Scouts then?
No, no, the Boy Scout thing was in the 1980s.
Ah, okay, okay.
The idea of being outside, having a campfire, being free, moving around, being in a group. Uh, and after that, I got a period of about 15 years when I was totally into cycling
Yeah.
with long endurance stuff. And suddenly, basically, the bike packing combinations, it's a fusion of both of these parts of my life. That's why I'm so uh, enthusiastic about, because
Yeah.
it brings me back to the old Boy Scout times, and it's also the modern bicycling possibilities. That's what I like about bikepacking. It's basically a marriage of Boy Scouting and or scouting. I mean, you don't. It's not about the gender, and about cycling.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess cycling gives a certain form of freedom. Like you can go where you want more freely than when you're with other modes of transport, and it's cheaper as well, so it's more affordable, I guess.
It depends on the gear. You can, I'm some kind of a gear gadget mania guy, so you can spend quite a lot of money on ridiculous, detailed, just small gears, but you don't have to. That's the good thing. Yeah, I guess it's the freedom is closely connected to this efficiency thing, because you can walk around the planet, but it will take you like hundred of days. And you can take a plane, it will take you less than 2 days. But the most efficient way seems to be the bicycle. It balances a lot of important factors because it's not about you, it's about the planet, it's about carbon footprint, it's about money, it's about whatever. And the bicycle seems to be the best of all worlds to me, at least to me. Some people may think
Hmm.
different about it.
I'm with you on that one. And let's go back to today. You explained that you were work packing. So could you first of all explain us what kind of job did you do that could allow you to even go on a bicycle to go around for a year?
Yeah, I know. I got a lot of privileges. I'm pretty sure about that because first of all, I'm my own boss. I'm running an editorial office, working on always on this field or connection between media and bicycle, in a couple of ways. So basically, I'm doing the same thing since I'm 17. My hobby converts into a job, or my job is always some kind of a hobby. In Germany, we call it Entgrenzung, because there's basically there is no border. In 99%, I'm not able to decide whether this is job at the moment or if I'm just enjoying my hobby.
But that's amazing.
Yeah, it's like always like the tears of the clown is just on the on is just backstage. It seems to me amazing, but you pay some kind of price for that as well, because you got a high risk. If you lose your passion for the hobby, you immediately lose your job as well. And if you feel the job is too much, yeah, the hobby is too much as well. The focus on the possibilities, it's quite amazing. I mean, I get my money for talking about bicycles all day, and I would do that anyway. So that's pretty cool. So we are a team of 12 people. We converted into remote decentral office through Corona, like a lot of people does, and we continued, including my tour as part of that. If there would have been no Corona, there would have been no workpacking tour for sure, for a couple of reasons.
Hmm. But like doing remote from home is still very different than remote from the bicycle. Can you explain me what brought you to this idea?
Yeah, I mean, there's always, or there's never one single chain of aspects. It's always a mixture. So first of all, during Corona, we did this mistake that we call it social distance, but it was about physical distance. I missed people. I missed meeting people. I missed traveling. So there was a real, yeah, I was hungry for going out. I was hungry for being on the road. I was hungry for visiting events. This is one part. The second part is, and this is good for joking. Um, I turned 50, so there was this hey, midlife crisis thing. Not really like a midlife crisis thing, but these, hey, I get 50, so let's find some cool way to celebrate that. And it's about the empty nest thing, because my kids, or our kids, left home for going to university. So we switched from four people living in a house into, oh, we are two now, and we are just a pair, and the kids are gone. So how to live your life, how to live your relationship, how to arrange the normality and the special things. And all my friends bought a VW Bully and did the van life thing. And I was like, whenever I opened my social media, I was like fluted by uh, lorries standing somewhere and doing van life. And I always pixeled the van out of the picture and put a bicycle in. And I was thinking like, cool place to stay by bike. And it ended up in a always these morning shower moments. You wake up, but your brain is not filled with these things from the day. So you standing under the shower, having an idea like, and suddenly you got an idea. Okay, I do van life without a van. And then I was thinking, okay, I do van life by bike, and immediately I thought, okay, probably a cargo bike is more convenient, and in order to neutralize the extra weight, let's get an electric engine on that bike, so it's flow and nice riding. Yeah, and so it was basically like a 30-second thing under the shower in one circumstances, and on the other side, it was like 20 years of having a family. Um, so that's the story.
And did you start quite soon? Like you had this shower idea, you were like, okay, this sounds really good. I want to do this. Were you able to then 1 month later be on your bicycle, or was it a longer process after that first thought?
It was end of August when I got the idea, and then I talked to my wife, and then I talked to my colleagues, and like mid of September, I was pretty sure I will go. And then I fixed the date like the 2nd of January, but like it's almost 3 months to get everything arranged, finance, timing, route, gear, and all these things. This is pretty much like, I don't know, that was hectic, that was chaotic, that was high speed, like 3 months, and it was in a totally daily routine. There was still a full-time job to do, there was still a family to, all the regular obligations were still running. So that was much too fast. They should have had like a couple of months more to get all things arranged. But it's like always on tours, you can't be prepared for everything.
Yeah. And can you tell me, so we're moving a little bit more forward now. You're leaving. Today is your first day. You say goodbye in the morning, I guess, and you're off to go for the year. How was the first day on your bicycle doing this work packing?
Yeah, it was weird. The weirdest moment was basically to leave my office, cause I got this desk and it was like totally arranged for working for years, and I put away everything so that someone else could use the desk for a year. So I left that desk and I was thinking, you spent more hours here than in bed and then wherever during the weeks. And suddenly it was an empty, unknown, unpersonal space. And that was this moment. Okay, now it's really starting. There is point of no point of return. So Now it's starting. That was weird. Then I cycled to. We got a velodrome next to us, and I invited a couple of people in the media for having a last loop on the velodrome and then heading off. And I got one friend, like he was riding a couple of miles with me. And then I meet another friend, and he was spending the first night with me. Sounds no. And we got rain, and the track wasn't fine. So actually, the first day did everything. In the first day, I experienced almost everything what's going to happen for the next years. So you have to adapt because the route does not work. Suddenly there was rain. You met people. You find great places. You it was like repeating for another 352 days. But now I was thinking it was so naive. I was so starting, and I had no clue what will happen and how to arrange and how to adapt to all these situations. And actually, for sure, I spent some tears because it was like you heading off. Something new was starting, something unknown. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally feel that. Yes. And I think it's even more impressive for such a long time leaving. But I'm thinking back when you were explaining all of that to the first day now I left to tour around Belgium, around the border of Belgium. And the first day my GPS wasn't working. So it was everything that could go wrong went wrong. My GPS wasn't doing it. My phone, Google Maps was telling me to go through the woods. It was rainy. The ground was way too wet. I had to walk next to my bicycle for a certain point. It was really like, oh my God, I was really naive. So when you were saying that, I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, even for someone with such experience, it's actually almost nice to hear that even your beginning of the journey wasn't perfect, actually. Did you have a certain goal or aspiration with it? Was it just like, okay, I'm gonna pull this through for a year and I'm just gonna do it? Or what was making sure that even with a slightly less good start, you continued going because you were like, it's gonna get better? I don't know. What was your motivation to continue?
Uh, Actually, I mean, I would just put it the opposite way. So what's the reason to stop? Um, First of all, and it's like I got this idea of doing van life without a van. So, and if I would have done that only in the summer month, everybody would mention like, yeah, that's easy. Yeah, but in winter when it's rainy, you need the car. So that was some kind of the mission or the consequences. If the idea is doing van life without a van, you should do it the whole year. And due to the fact that I got a lot of business meetings and dates and appointments in a physical way in Germany, there wasn't the option to go to Portugal during the winter and having comfortable, nice weather and then cycling back into the German summer. It was like, it was obviously that I should have been around so that I can just cycle to these dates or just stop, get off the bike, get on a train, do that appointment, and then get back to my bike. And that gives you some harder winter episodes, obviously. On the other side, I really liked the direct communication between nature, weather, and me, myself, and I. Because if you're on a static house with big glasses and all these isolation things, and you got a shower with a screw and a red point on in it, and you get suddenly hot water. So it's so easy, and also it's such a distance from the nature. So that was part of the challenge. And the challenge not in a being tough way, but the challenge in a way of cool opportunities to find out, to explore, to have new experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to get into those challenges actually. But before we do that, could you sum up the countries you visited in that year of workpacking? Because you were mainly in Germany, but you weren't only in Germany.
So it was 90% or 95 in Germany. So I did a small loop into the northern part of Switzerland. I did a very small loop to Austria. Then I spent a few kilometers in Belgium, in France, in Netherlands. I took the train to Scotland and I mean, if you do workpacking and you go on vacation, obviously you do cycling. So I did a bikepacking trip with my son, with my youngest son in Scotland. So we took the train to Inverness and cycled down to Glasgow, and then took the train back to Belgium. And I did a few meters in Czechia. That's about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now we're talking about the difficulties. Did you have any difficulties you faced, and which solutions did you find for those difficulties?
I got this very romantic, Instagrammable idea of having a large tipi and a titanium oven inside, and then sitting on my chair working on the computer, and my cup of tea or coffee is just on the oven and being hot the whole time. To be honest, it was a ridiculous idea that I can stand outside working in a tent while 99% of the people taking an office with a heating system. The manual of the tent told like you need 2 to 3 people to set up these tipi, and I was me, myself, and I. This is three, but just two hands. That doesn't work. That I find a good way to get it done somehow, but it took a lot of time. And the same is with the oven. They've got these 15-second video from one of the employees of the companies converting the titanium fold into the oven thing. It took me 15 minutes. They took 15 seconds. I don't know, it's magic. Anyway, so the problem was it was like almost an hour from stopped to sitting in the tent and start to make the fire. You are cooling down in that period of time. You cannot get warm again. That was the first mistake. It's great pictures with the tipi and the fire. It looks really cool.
Yeah, I saw those pictures. It does really look like, oh wow, this sounds like something like very luxurious, something one can do.
it's it does not work, and for a second reason, because the idea was like my romantic idea was, and then I'm get up in the morning doing the oven and have a coffee and work in the chair for a couple of hours, and then during the warmer hours of the day I will jump on my bike. But if you set up the tent in the evening and you notice there is no internet, you immediately know there is no working tomorrow morning. So, and if you get a Zoom conference at 9 a.m. You don't, I mean, you won't sleep probably if you know, okay, it will be a hurry morning to get all the things done on the bike, find a place with internet in time.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask, so what you did is probably switching tents, I assume.
First of all, I was like, I become a great fan of the bakery stores on the countryside because they usually have a good WLAN, um, good internet access, and they got hot coffee, and you just drive, leave the bike outside, get inside, ask friendly, and in 99% you get a friendly answer. And I did like Zoom conferences with 50 people out of a bakery in the Black Forest, and no one noticed that I was sitting in a bakery. That worked out pretty good. And the second step was get rid of the oven because it does not make sense, and and get an easy build up lightweight tent. So I get the oven, the tipi, and a couple of gears that was only for having these glamping working atmosphere. Uh, I get rid of about 10 kilos of gear, and instead of taking like 45 minutes from stop till it could get warm, it reduced to like 10 minutes.
Wow.
That was so much time efficient, but it was another kind of comfort. During the winter months, there wasn't this concept of spending lots of hours in the tent. It was more like a sleeping place and then jump on the bike, finding the next bakery and getting a warm place to work with a proper
Yeah.
internet connection there.
Yeah. Talking about sleeping places, was that also a difficulty you faced to find a good location? Or what was the way you went to find a good place to pitch your tent?
Okay, first I like it was 352 nights and I spent like about 220 outside, like in tents and or in summertime even without a tent. And I used regular camping places. I got a lot of invitations, so I used a lot of backyards from people. And sometimes I just stopped where I am and find a place, which is some kind of, yeah, it's not that totally legal way, but I never got any trouble. My idea is I take more trash from the place than I took to the place. So usually the spots I use are cleaner when I'm leaving.
That's amazing. Yeah. We should all do that when we travel, actually.
Yeah, we should always do that.
Yeah. To round up the difficulties, are there other difficulties you faced besides gear and finding a place to camp that you were not expecting and you still faced and had to find solutions to?
Yeah, first it's like I got this romantic idea of cruising around, having an place to be for business reason from time to time, and in between I'm just riding down the streets and having a good time. It ended up that the reality is totally different. So it's like a level of 1 to 10. Uh, like it's pretty usual to me that I got a phone call on, I don't know, Monday at noon. We do have a interview or whatever on Wednesday morning and it's 500 k's away, like in Berlin or in Munich or wherever. So, and the people don't even ask if I'll make it in time, because 500 k's a day is pretty okay. You take a car, you take a train, you take a plane. And suddenly I got a setup that took me like 50 k's a day was my plan. So I was 10 times slower than my surrounding. And even if I did a plan like, okay, in 4 weeks you need to be at Frankfurt for Eurobike, and then you got another 4 weeks to be in Berlin. If I got one appointment in between that changes my route, all the ideas I've got just had been overruled by reality. So
Yeah.
that was pretty hard. Uh, so that makes me much more often taking a train. So I left my cargo bike, I left my home, did a business trip by train, got back to my home, and jumped on the bike again. Um,
If I can ask something between that, how did you manage to leave your bicycle all alone for multiple days? Like, how did you make sure it was in a safe place?
yeah, I'm in the bicycle business for like over 30 years, so I know everybody for some and nobody. I have to be careful about that. But sometimes I ask people or via social media, oh, I need a place for my bike for a couple of days. Sometimes I know people in towns. Sometimes I just give a phone call to a bike shop or whatever and said, hey, can I leave my bike for 3 days? And there are like warm showers or the ADFC Dachgeber or one night tent. Sometimes I give them an email like, it's not about me sleeping a night in your garden. It's about, do you have a place for my bike for 2 days? And people are so friendly. I mean, this is really one of the most important learnings of the tour. If you see what's going on in the world, I tend to lose my belief in the good of the people. And in a local direct way, people are so friendly and so helpful, and they offer and they do whatever they can do to support you for Yeah, I don't even know for what reason, because I'm just a Gunnar riding around, so who cares about it? And still, people are giving me invitations. I just actually the only moment when I was really afraid of my bike was at a bicycle event in Berlin, because there was no guided bicycle parking, so my bike was really in a hotspot bike theft area, almost unguided. That was the most freakiest, like 6 hours in the on the whole tour.
And what is the solution for that at that time? You just put some extra locks?
Actually, there wasn't a really proper solution. I tried to find a place at that conference that I could see the bike out of the window, but it was like 15th grade in the house. So I saw my bike, but it was so far away. Even if someone was working on that bike, tried to steal it, I couldn't make it in time. I can't tell you anything on that conference anymore because I was just focused on my bike. Yeah, but
Yeah, and um, did you also think about having like a tracker into your bike? I don't know if you had one, but I know
yeah,
some e-bikes have a little tracker.
I did, but it's just like a helmet. It helps to reduce the consequences of an accident, or a GPS tracker higher the chance that you will get your bike back, but it doesn't reduce the risk of getting the bike stolen. Of course, I got a multiple checkup. I got a lock, and I got an AirTag, and I got a GPS. Nevertheless, it's quite an effort. I mean, if the bike is stolen, how long does it take to get a new bike, to get all the things arranged? Even if insurance company will pay for it, they won't pay for the time and they won't pay for the stress. They will just replace the hardware.
Hmm. And switching up a little bit, talking about the hardware, could you share some tips about what material one should bring if they also thinking about doing a work packing? Can you share with us what materials you brought? You already explained the tent situation, but there must be so much more to bring when you're traveling.
Yeah, first of all, these work packing thing to me was obviously a good change for having a real life minimalism reduced to the max experience. Like my office, I used to have like 2 or 3 monitors and a subwoofer and a mouse and all these and a microphone and stuff like that. And now I'm just having a 16-inch MacBook Pro, one mouse and one headset and nothing else. So I reduced that, and I didn't went after the tour. I didn't went to the old setup again. So that was basically about all the parts of the life. So I mean, all the washing gear. I got clothing from -15 to +30 on the bike, on the campground, during the night, and for one setup for the business appointments. Um, each sector is pretty limited. It ends up to be 40, 45 kilograms of gear for a year, but that's not that much. It's hard on the bike to transport, but if you think this is what I got for a living for a year, it's not that much.
No, that's true.
And if you want to go for a workpacking trip, the first thing is how long and what will be the temperature like. Because if you're going summer for 4 weeks, you don't need a -15 degrees sleeping bag. You don't even need raining gear. You just need a second dry set of clothing, because even modern raining gear won't work if it's more than 20 degrees. So you get wet anyway. I guess workpacking is not necessarily about staying outside, having a campfire. You can do that with hotels or with B&B or stuff like that. So you probably don't need camping gear. You probably don't need a large cooking setup. Um, so the gear is for 2 weeks in summertime. You will get that gear on a regular bike easily. And the only aspect to add in comparison to a vacation is your working setup, which is you will have a mobile phone anyway. So it's just about the computer and the mouse and yeah, the gear you need for that.
And how about internet? Because you were already mentioning that you were looking for places where you have internet, but there's also some devices that can help you to have internet on the road. Like I guess also you can like have a lot of internet on your phone and then share a hotspot with your computer if it's necessary. Was that also something you did?
I was thinking about Starlink, but that does not work on a bike for a couple of reasons. So it ended up that I got a unlimited flat rate. I spent nights like synchronizing 35 gigabytes during one night with the iPhone on the MacBook, and that as long as there is some kind of internet outside, that works pretty good. And that's the point. Sometimes in Germany, it's not that good. Surprisingly to me, the former Eastern German part tend to have the better internet. I don't know for what reason. And this is part of the difficulties, especially in winter. Because in summer, if it's sunny and warm, you can sit anywhere as long as you got internet. But if it's 2 degrees and snowy, rainy, you won't sit outside working on a computer. So you have to go inside. That was the complicatedest and the most stressiest part was like making sure to be in time at places where you're able to work.
Yeah. Wow. Hmm. And how about the financial aspect of it then? Because like it's gonna be more expensive as well to always eat outside and to stay in Airbnb. How did you make sure that you balanced it correctly?
Actually, I haven't been on a Airbnb. When I was on the road on my own, I took one hotel the whole year, which I picked like in a free way of decision. I checked in a hotel 2 times for a couple of days because I got corona and I was ill. But with a free choice on my own, I only took once a hotel because I was totally pissed because of snow and whatever. So I thought, okay, let's take a hotel this night. I was having a meal outside in a restaurant on my own for 2 times in that year. The most option I took, I was cooking on myself with my camping gear, or I was meeting people and we had a lunch somewhere or a diner, and people are so gentle. It's like I was invited that's often. Couldn't imagine that. And that's pretty cool. That had been pretty cool. So money wise, and I know I mean I'm white. I'm 50. I'm my own boss. So I'm very privileged. And the tour wasn't about. I didn't really check up how much the budget was in the end. But this is part of the privilege that even I didn't live like a king outside. I didn't throw the money out of the window as we said in Germany, but I wasn't I wasn't like I wasn't forced to keep the cost as low as possible.
Yeah. But do you think, or could you share how much money somebody needs to maybe set aside if they want to go on, like you were saying, like 1 year you're going to be away? I guess I'm thinking about like, okay, maybe I need some money put aside in a worst case scenario. So some emergency money that is needed. I don't know if you thought about that as well, or just how to find out how much money you would need.
It- That's hard, cause one peop it depends on the taste of food you've got. It depends on how much you eat and where you eat. Um, I would go the opposite way, and it depends on if you still got the costs running at home. Because if you're a student and if you just like get out of a student room and you don't have to pay any rent for that during the year, okay, you got money for the campsites. If you prefer the wild camping or the one night tents or warm showers, you don't have to pay that much for the nights. But on the other side, if you take hotel, there are so many parameters influencing the budget. Think about what, if you are into cycle touring, what your budget is about for a day. And then you should add like for internet and for internet cafes, some kind of budget, and that's about it. If you do a workpacking trip for a week, you get the first, and you should do that in advance. You shouldn't make the same mistake I did. Just start without any test run. Um, And if you go for a week, you will get a first idea whether you like that lifestyle anyway, because some people won't like it and other people will really enjoy it. And you will get a first impression of what the money, what the budget is about. Like how much do you spend, how much coffee do you spend in a co-working space a day? Or if you're just working in a bus stop next to co-working space. There's so many individual parameters um, to lower the cost or to higher it.
Yeah, and now I'm thinking if there's someone listening now who's like, yeah, I really want to try this, I really want to do this, but I'm an employee. Um, what would you tell an employee that they can tell their boss or their employer to to convince them to let them go for a work packing trip?
Yeah, first of all, check the rules that are in the system already. Because if you're allowed to have home office or a remote office for 3 days a week, then take one of these weeks with a banking holiday on Thursday and then take one day off on Friday, and suddenly you're able to start the week before Friday afternoon till the next week Sunday or Monday morning, without even asking your boss, as long as your rules are allowed to have mobile working. For example, people in the finance industries, they are simply not allowed to work on a computer when in a surrounding where other people are working, because they have high sensible data on the screen. So check out the rules for your company, for your kind of job, and first of all, start a test run, which won't make you asking your boss anyway. Because when you've done it for like 4 or 5 days, then you can get around the corner. Hey, boss, do you remember last week? And did I do my job? Everything was fine, wasn't it? So, do you mind if I increase the time and then go for like 3 weeks or whatever? Oh, we have to keep in mind it's pretty privileged if you got the opportunity to do so. But I guess the comfort zone and the opportunities are much larger than most people think. It's about starting and not about focusing on what's stopping you. It's about of focusing possibilities.
And what if the boss is scared that the work will not be done or anything alike? Is there something that one can say like, hey, but I did my job, but that's not maybe convincing enough?
I don't know, but it's about, I mean, it's this new work question on what about control and what about trust. If you got a boss who is not trusting you, you got a problem anyway, or he got a problem anyway, or she. Because you cannot control. Anyway, even if you're sitting in the office next to the other people, you don't see if he's just typing things in and it's not working efficient. And if someone is sitting in Malibu in a co-working space, he's probably or she is the most efficient worker. You don't know. Also, in some circumstances, these sitting next to each other and counting time is ridiculous in a world of knowledge workers. Workpacking is good for the employee and for the companies because it shows where the system is working efficient and it shows where the system could get some improvements. Even our company and our work culture improves during and after the workpacking tour.
Oh, wow.
We got some trouble. Obviously, it takes some time for a new arrangement, but now I guess we'll even working better than before.
Yeah, and I guess it's also maybe a little bit about the hours you have to work. If it's really like a 9 to 5 and it's winter times, it's gonna get dark sooner, so you have less time to cycle. Guess it's also depends on how flexible the working hours maybe are.
This is this trust thing. Before Corona, we had been an office, a 9 to 5. We are all at the same place office philosophy. And now we get like 15 minutes a day of virtual appointment. That's the business hours. And all the other things are just work whenever you want.
Okay.
Sounds radical. To me, it sounds logical.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to someone who's like, okay, this is also interesting. I've learned a lot already now. I'm thinking of doing this. Is there some other advice you would give besides what you already told us?
Yeah, the promotion advice is, and if you speak German language, buy my book, my workpacking book, because it's like 300 or 250 pages with failures and tips, so and great stories and some cool pictures.
Is it available in English?
Not yet, but the pictures are international. My advice is just do it for a day. The first step is take your bike in the morning and your laptop right in a park, work from the park, and right back home in the evening. And you will see that changes the way you work. That changes, that's great atmosphere, even in summertime. And my advice is don't do it in winter in Germany with this tent concept. To be honest, like I don't want to like in 9 months of the year, I prefer the workpacking by bike, and maybe the 3 months in winter, I would prefer the van, but or just prefer to change the area and switch to, I don't know, Portugal, and I would go on the bike again. So, it's like you can influence the parameters and just arrange it the way that it suits and fits to what you want to experience.
Yeah, yeah. I also wanted to touch a little bit on the topic of sustainability. I know this is an important topic for you as well, but could you highlight how important it was for you to choose the bicycle instead of a van, for example, and how sustainability impacts the choices you made for this trip?
I'm not addicted or into any kind of machines moving me around. So I'm not a cart guy, I'm not a motorcycle guy, I'm not a car guy at all. I don't even thought like a second about doing van life. This probably got a sustainability approach, but it's, to be honest, it wasn't. It was like a nice sidekick of it,
Okay.
um, but not like, oh, I need to do that because of. Uh, Personally, I don't fly anymore and stuff like that. But the workpacking thing is more like combination of bikepacking, adventure, cycling, and working.
Yeah. But at the same time, it did affect your choice of staying, for example, I guess, in Germany, because you could have gone to Portugal, then take the plane for a meeting and go back.
I don't know, my last flight, did one with my son. Like I stopped a couple of years personal flying, and we do have in our office we have a no flight policy, so we don't take any projects or any things where we need to take a plane. Um, because this is the most efficient lever an individual got. Don't take a plane and eat less meat. That's probably beside of general lower like consumption of stuff. I bought some new gear, but the oldest gear I got on the tour was like some parts from the mid 90s. So an old pullover still working fine, and some other gear. And all the gear I don't need anymore after the workpacking trip had been given to someone else or will be given to someone else pretty soon. So I don't want to store the stuff for unpredicted future. So just give it to someone else who's needing it right now. That's part of the game.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now I want to close up our little podcast conversation with a couple of fire quick questions. Those are questions that can be answered with one word or one sentence.
Here we go.
Are you ready for it?
Sure.
All right. How old are you now?
51.
How old were you the first time you traveled to another continent?
Continent. 22.
And where did you go?
America.
What's the longest time you've been away from home?
Yeah, the workpacking tour, I was like, I had to go home for business reasons 2 times, so that had been like 9 months.
Wow. Okay.
Or 8 months.
8 months. Would you rather see a lot of places or get to know one really well?
I mean, the place where you live, you pretty well. So traveling is no, it's the mixtures. I don't want to go the Chinese way. I don't want to go Europe in 3 days. But on the other side, I still want to go traveling. So it's in between.
Okay. Would you rather save money on accommodation or pay for a good bed?
I got a sleeping bag. I got a good mat. So accommodation is the easiest way to save money to me.
Okay. What would you teach a foreigner who wants to learn your language? What word would you teach?
Bitte, obviously, is the most important word.
What does it mean?
Bitte, yeah. Please.
Yes. What can't you travel without?
My teddy bear.
What's your favorite travel song? Do you have a song you like to listen to when you're on your bicycle?
The sound of my tires.
Okay. Bye.
No, the sound the bicycle
Ah,
tires do.
I was like,
It's not a band.
I was like, wow, I don't know that song.
Yeah, the sounds always different. No, I'm not that music guy when I'm cycling necessarily. So no, the sound of the tires in the wind.
Okay. Why do you travel?
There are two options: getting away from something or getting towards something. And it's first of all, it's finding out. Then it's about if you move your body through the physical room, you move your mind in an emotional and intellectual room. It's always an inner part traveling, and that's the most important part.
Yeah. Last one. Can you pitch me why I should try workpacking?
30-second pitch. It's the greatest combination of normal life, adventure, and working to me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast. It was really inspiring talking to you. Now I want to know, where can people find you if they're interested in more?
Yeah, first of all, you find me on, I don't know, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We got workpacking.de webpage. So type in my name. I'm not hidden, not at all. You will find me. I'm looking forward to get an email or whatever and answering some questions. So you will find me.
Amazing. All right. Then thank you so much for being part of this.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
This was Travel Devil, brought to you by me, your host, Clara Francken. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to continue the conversation or suggest any future guests, you can go to my Instagram @Clara Francken. Take care, and I will see you next Thursday.